All right, folks. I am back in the room, apparently. Finally, right? You turn this up. Turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up. At max. Okay, I don't know. I'm experimenting with the mic. Okay. So, I first off, I think I'm going to change the name of the channel because I don't really want to drink bourbon like every single time I do a video. Because that starts to get expensive, and two, I don't want to drink that much. So I think I'm going to drop the whiskeys part and just come up with something else. Today I'm drinking Yarrito. I don't know how you say it. I don't know. I just love these. This is the passion fruit one. So good. The only one I don't like is the tamarind. The others are good. So today, also, I'm having a lot of throat issues because the inversion here is really bad the last couple of days. But also, it's become apparent that I might be allergic to my cat. So I can't let her in here anymore, which she's chilling on the couch right now. So she probably won't come in here. I don't know. But I can't leave her in here during the day or let her in here during the day, and especially at night, because it screws me all up. And I forgot to close the door last night and woke up, she was on the bed. Had me all messed up. So definitely I'm allergic to the cat now. That's new. Let's move on. I'm rambling now. 2 minutes. So don't be a male girlfriend. What do I mean by that? I might have mentioned that a couple times on this channel. I don't know. I definitely have talked about it with friends and stuff. But there was a guy. Hold on. Let me see if I can pull this up. It was on Facebook. It's the beauty of having my computer right in front of me. So, no, go away, update. I don't need you right now. So, it was a post that I saw on some random page. And the post says, it's obviously been written by a woman. I love a man that can express his feelings to me. You're sad? Tell me. You miss me? Tell me. Got a lot on your mind? Talk to me about it. This isn't weak, it's attractive. Of course it's attractive. Of course, every woman finds this attractive. And I'm not saying that those are inherently bad things, but that can get you in trouble as a man. Because when you listen to this, it can backfire. And a lot of you guys that are watching this already know what I'm talking about. You've lived it. I've lived it multiple times. But I don't remember. Where's my comment? So my comment was, and nobody replied to this, was most men don't think that that's weak anymore. You know, we used to think that was weak. A lot of men probably still think it's weak. But to me and a lot of other guys, like, most men don't think that's weak anymore. It's just that when a lot of men open up like this, the woman loses interest or uses it against them. And that's why a lot of men turn to stoicism and the red pill content in general, stuff like that. And that's just a simple fact. Like, that's not my opinion. That's what happens. That's what I see a lot of men say. I see that online a lot. And that's why men don't open up anymore, because when they did, maybe once or twice, it was used against them. I've talked about BPD girl multiple times. Before that was my ex-wife. She never really used it against me, my ex-wife. But when I did, I remember there was a time where we met probably a month or two before I got deployed to Afghanistan. And we decided we were going to just stay together. We were going to tough it out, while I was deployed. I'll never try that again. But I remember there was a point where I was like, I think, I'm going to be over there in war zone, and I might, from time to time just need some reassurance from you if we're going to date, like, hey, are we good? Do you actually give a crap? Things like that. Just reassurance. And she jumped down my throat. She was like, I can't remember the words she used. This was a long time ago. Way, way over like 15 years ago at this point. Was it? Yeah, almost 15 years ago. No, it was 15 years ago. Holy shit. she said something about she wasn't going to. I don't remember what it was, but it was, I can't remember the words she used. She wasn't going to like, I don't know, fawn over me. That's what she said. She was like, I'm not going to fawn over you, or something like that. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, that's not what I was asking. Like, if you want to date, we're a monogamous couple, and I'm over in a war zone, giving me some assurance that, you know, you give a shit about me is not a crazy thing to ask. And that was me being emotionally vulnerable, open, saying, hey, I might need this. And it was immediately thrown back in my face. That's the only instance I can think of that my ex-wife did that. But that was right when we met. So, I don't know. Maybe she thought I was just like coming on too strong. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, BPD girl definitely did a lot. You know, as soon as I would like open up about, you know, how I felt about things and my past, the thing that was always thrown at me was, you need to go to therapy. Like, I'm fine. Not everybody has a childhood trauma, so to speak. Everybody, for some reason, I don't know if it's big therapy has like got it in a lot of people's heads that everybody has childhood trauma. No, like, I had a pretty good childhood. Like, I grew up poor, and I never met my dad, and my mom vanished, but I wasn't living with my mom. I was living with my grandma when this happened. So, like, my mom was more like, I know it's weird to say, but she was almost like an aunt at that point. So it didn't affect me the same way it did my little brother, who was living with her when she vanished, and he ended up in foster care. We had to get him out and adopt him. So he got the issue there. But no, I don't. Other than that, I had a really good childhood. You know, I was taken care of. It was made sure that I was going to be at least somewhat successful as an adult, and I turned out pretty good. You know, I had some anger issues because of being in the military and being deployed and PTSD diagnosis. I did go to therapy for that eventually, but oddly enough, I've also talked about how a video game helped me get that under control, which is crazy to say. But my point is, everybody doesn't have some childhood trauma. Everybody doesn't need to go to therapy all the time. And for some reason, a lot of women think that saying that is a red flag. Oh, you need to go to therapy. No, not everybody needs that. Some people have the ability to look at themselves and have some self-awareness and say, hey, okay, I was the problem at that point. I need to change that kind of behavior. And I used to not be like that. I am now. If I recognize that I did something wrong, I'll change it. But my big point here is, a lot of women say that they want emotionally available and emotionally vulnerable. Men talk about your feelings and tell you, you know, say what you're thinking, say how you're feeling, what's bothering you, and this and that. And the thing is, they're not lying when they say that. They do want that. You know, women want that because that's what women like. That's how women are. That's how women's brains think. So, of course, they want that out of a man. But that's not, I'm not saying don't do that, but just tread lightly. Be careful. Because when you start to open up all the time and honestly do exactly what women want you to do all the time, you start to lose your masculinity. And masculinity is partly stoicism, partly, to a point. If something's seriously bothering you and you believe that you need to discuss it with your partner, please do. Do that. That needs to happen. Don't hold it in and then throw it all out in an argument, because that never turns out good. But you know, if it's something like, I'm going to tell you a story here. So there was a point. I talked in a past video about where I got to a point when I was with my ex-wife that I was at the point of like passive suicide. That's what they call it. And I didn't realize that till way later when I was in therapy. But there was something I was on the road and I was talking about, I don't remember what it was. But I said something to we were married at the time, said something to my wife. I'll just move on. So, and I remember I said something along the lines of, well, maybe it'd just be better if I was just dead. You know, I said that. And she didn't even reply to it. No reply, nothing. For like 2 hours. And I finally messaged, I'm like, there's no reply to that. You just had me say it and you don't care. And I don't remember exactly what she said back, but she accused me of a narcissistic tactic, because narcissists will say stuff like that. But no, I meant it. I was at a point where I didn't care if I lived or died. I would never kill myself, never take my own life. But I was at a point where it was like, all right, maybe it'd be easier on people if I just wasn't around. And there was no reply to that. And that right there is another example. So I guess there was 2 examples of me being emotionally vulnerable and open and not accepted. Absolutely not accepted. So women say they want this, but then when they get the man that does that, they do one of 2 things, maybe 3, but I know 2. 1, they don't know how to accept it. So they'll either shut down and not allow you to be that, and they'll tell you how broken you are and that you need to go to therapy instead of just talking to you. Instead of just talking to you and accepting that you're also allowed to have bad days, you're allowed to have a bad mood, you're not allowed to take that mood out on someone else. But if you're having a bad mood and just not talking, women need to be able to accept that. When they ask, hey, what's wrong? And you say, I don't want to talk about it. It's fine, and nothing's wrong with you. Nothing's wrong with us. I just had a bad day. Don't want to talk much. Let's just chill. Women cannot accept that. You have to talk about it. That's the problem. We don't want to talk about everything. And that's how men's brains works. We don't need to talk about everything. When something's bothering us, most of the time, it's bothering us because you can't change it. There's nothing you can do because men are problem solvers. If there's a problem, we're going to find a way to fix it. If we can't fix it, it'll bother us and it's in our head. But that's why we don't want to talk about things. Because what are you going to do? What's the point in talking about something that can't be fixed? Now, this is back to like male suicide epidemic. Now, that can be fixed. If you're thinking about something like that, you need to talk to somebody. And if you have in like my position when I mentioned that, maybe it'd be better if I was dead, to my ex-wife, and there was no reply. Not long after that is when I told her I wanted to leave. Like, I was out. I know you don't care. Like, I'm not going to be in a relationship like that. And like I said, the BPD girl, when I would tell her things about my childhood, my past, her response was, you need to go to therapy. Like, I don't need to go to therapy. Like, I don't need that. Like, I just don't. And of course, she would throw that in my face too. Now, while we were together, I did go to therapy. I've already talked about all this stuff because I thought I was the problem. And that's where I learned I was not the problem. And she didn't like that when I told her, what the therapist had told me. But the thing is, and then Conflict Girl. I've talked about her a couple times too. Even I didn't tell her a whole lot about my past, like my childhood, but I did tell her about the relationship I had with BPD Girl, and she threw that in my face too. Well, you're broken. She traumatized you. She did this, and I was like, and then she was like, you moved on too fast. You were detached or emotionally detached was the terminology she used. Therapy speak. When people who are emotionally abusive and manipulative, when they go to therapy, they learn those therapy terms, they use them like weapons against you. And it just pisses me off. So that's a red flag if you ever run into somebody that does that. But yeah, moving on. Like I said, if women want the emotionally available, the emotionally vulnerable man, but when they get that, they don't know how to accept it. Or they'll throw it in your face and use it against you, like the examples I showed or talked about, didn't show. I need a drink of my Yarritos. But yeah. Or what was the third thing I was thinking of? So they don't accept it, or they'll use it against you. Or they will lose interest because, like I said before, that's not an inherently masculine thing to just talk about your feelings and things that can't be fixed. And on the surface, women want that emotionally available man, but on below, internally, their gut instinct is telling them that's not what a man would do. Like, we don't talk about our feelings. That's not how our brains work. We don't think like women. And it gets on my nerves when people deny that women and men don't think differently. Like, no, we're not supposed to think like women. We're supposed to complement each other. We're supposed to be different. Okay? Women are supposed to think and act like women, and naturally they do. Men are supposed to naturally think and act like men, and that means masculinity, a little bit of stoicism. You don't need to talk about everything. Some things do need to be talked about. I'm not saying don't talk. Again, if you got somebody that you can talk to about anything and they won't turn it on you, then good. That's you found the one, man. I'm telling you. But the point that I need to find on this post originally was that another guy said what I'm saying right now. He says, it's like, talk. The post was talk about your feelings, and then another guy commented until you're angry with him, and then you use all that vulnerability against him. I've already mentioned all this, right? Now, most guys agreed with it. They're like, yeah, that's what happens because we've run into it so much. And then this is what prompted me to make this video. Was some other man, he's a younger guy. I need to iterate that he is, his profile picture is him and his wife. Okay, already a little bit of a red flag there. That's a codependent relationship, and I might be using the wrong terminology, but like a codependent relationship is not healthy. And people that put them and their wife on their profile picture tend to be in that kind of relationship. This guy's he's a pawn. But he commented on the other guy. The other guy said, until you're angry with them, then they use that vulnerability against you. So this guy just proceeded to try and attack the other man. He said, then find someone else. So it seems even most people would do this, man or woman. Just tells me you have the worst luck of the draw, unlikely, or have a professional victim complex. So you have another guy who essentially is being a little emotionally vulnerable by saying that, once the woman's angry with you, they'll use that vulnerability against you. That's him probably speaking of a past experience. That's a little bit of emotional vulnerability right there. So he's doing what the post was saying, and then another man decided to attack him for that because he didn't like what he said. Because this man, I'm not going to go through I tried to have a conversation with him on what his approach was just disrespectful and wrong and not masculine at all. But it became clear over the conversation where I was just trying to talk to him, and he would just get increasingly angry that I called him out and started calling me names and all this other stuff. And basically boils down to, you can tell that this man is a pawn of his girlfriend or his wife, whatever she is. She has gotten him to act exactly how she wants him to act. She's gotten him to act like a woman. Everything he said sounded like a feminist. And that was the reply that I made to his comment attacking the other guy. I was like, dude, you sound like a man-hating feminist. Like, you don't sound like another guy. You're not on our side, man. And it's because he's a male girlfriend. He just opens up. He talks about his feelings. He virtue signals constantly. This is just in this conversation. And he's got all these pictures. Almost all of his pictures are him and his wife. The guy has no life aside from him and his girl. I've been in that dynamic before, and you think you're right when you're in that dynamic. You think you're right, but you're so wrong. And eventually, I don't think this guy's going to be very happy because he's not being allowed to be a man. He's actively acting like a feminist, man-hating hoe. I don't know how to word it any other way than that, man. So this guy is a male girlfriend. The thing is, I talked about my last video where all these women, love Pedro Pascal. This guy acts like a woman. Pedro Pascal acts like a woman. I don't care who gets mad at that. He acts like a woman. If you watch interviews with him, especially if he's with other women, he's always like trying to get some reassurance and some emotional support. And he's always like, oh my God, okay. There's rumors he's gay. I don't really give a crap what his sexuality is. He acts like a woman. He just does. And women love this because they want a partner that acts and thinks like them. And that's not healthy. If you're not complimenting each other, if you act exactly the same as a man and a woman, then that's just an odd dynamic that just is not going to work long term. And the problem is also, we look at the political climate of the United States now, or the world maybe. Something might happen. I'm not saying a civil war would ever happen, but if it ever comes down to a point where you're being a male girlfriend, and you ever have to actually defend yourself and your family, you're going to have a bad day. You are going to have a bad day. So, I don't know, man. We need somehow, there's got to be a way for women to start appreciating masculine men again. And a lot do. It's mainly conservative women and right-leaning women and women that aren't in the United States. Women in Asia, South America, Mexico. Not Canada. They're super liberal and weird. But I think American women especially have been brainwashed to hate masculine men. And that is a big problem, because feminine men and male girlfriends are more susceptible to control. They're already being controlled by feminists. They're already virtue signaling and saying exactly what these women want them to say. Women that hate men, mind you. So then when the government comes along and starts telling them what to do and telling them what they need to think like, and the media and social media and everything just brainwashes these guys, and they just go along with it. A masculine man will question things and say, why do I need to do that? Why would I do that? That doesn't make any sense to me. But a feminine man is just going to be like, oh, okay, I'll do it. No, I don't want to delve into that world too much because it gets crazy. But yeah, feminine men are more easy to control. They're weaker minded, and they're weaker physically. So women used to adore Harrison Ford and Clint Eastwood. These weren't big burly men, but they were definitely masculine men. They still are. And that's what women used to admire. Now they want Pedro Pascal and Timothée Chalamet. Timothée Chalamet looks like an Italian shoe. But I don't know. I don't know the fix to that. I don't think there is a fix at this point, because women have come around to a point now in America where they just actively hate masculinity. They don't, and I used to not think there was an attack on masculinity, but the more I'm online, the more I see it. I'm like, yeah, there is definitely an attack on masculinity. I have a little bit of a sunburn because I've been riding around with the top off my Jeep. So, video is longer than I really wanted it to be, but that's fine. I need to go rewatch WWE Raw from yesterday because I fell asleep while I was playing. Then I had a bad allergic reaction this morning to the cat. It's been a day. I feel like crap, but my Yarritos taste good. Y'all have a good one.